politics and politics and stuff. We're like trying to. So this is Felicia.
Hi,
Felicia,
hi.
what is your last name? Oh my God, even
M-
Felicia's my cousin.
My cousin, Moore. My last name is
Oh
Moore.
yeah, that's right, Felicia Moore.
Alicia
Uh,
Moore.
we're the same age, right? I mean, it doesn't really matter. We have the same age, so we're around.
41.
Okay, yeah, I'm a little older than you are, but not by much. And let's see. So Felicia's grandma was my favorite, like one of my favoriteest aunts that passed away. How long has it been now? Like,
She passed away in 23, so
I
two
guess
years.
no, it hasn't been very long. But yeah, I mean that those visits to Jacksonville were fun. I enjoyed my time there. So we're what, second cousins? Third?
Girl, I get lost. I be getting lost when I try. I think,
Oh, your dad is my cousin. So
yeah.
your dad was my cousin.
So you're
Sorry,
my
that was
first
confusing.
cousin. Once removed, I think is what it's called. Actually, I don't know, girl. I get confused.
Girl, I don't either. But this is fun because we have been talking about like because you're very vocal and I love that. Like I always want to hear other people's, like perspectives on life or even politics and stuff because I mean, we can't just sit there and listen to the same old bullshit all the time, expect like something different to happen.
Yeah, I mean, look. To be fair, even in the space, active in the space, you still feel that way sometimes. You still feel like, what's the fucking point? Nothing's gonna change. I mean, you get to that point sometimes. It's hard not to because wins are very inch. They're like incremental, and they don't. You can't always feel them. So
Well, let's tell everybody what you do. What is it exactly that you do? I just know you'd be like speaking your mind and like trying to get people like, hey, we got to do this. And that's like kind of where I'd like to go with this Nebraskans for Medical Marijuana. I'd like to get more involved to where we can get online and show people how to like send letters to your senators, Congress, and then even like lobby. Like they're like, oh, can you come out to the Capitol so we can teach you how to lobby? I'm like, let's go.
yeah, I mean, technically, I guess these days I would say I'm an advocate. That's the easiest way to say it. All of the, I like to call my labor work at this point in my life, even when I don't get paid for it, because I just feel like it is.
Amen.
But I mean, I guess it's, oh, I don't like this question. I don't like this
Like,
question because
what is it that you do exactly?
I I don't usually define myself like that, right? I do what is pulling me, like the issue or the thing that is like pulling me in a direction at a moment. So in the last couple of years, I've really been heavy into affordable housing advocacy locally, like with my local government, because it touches people in my family and it's I don't know the work even though I've kind of like moved up in my life, working class issues are still like near and dear to my heart. And my son was affected by the housing crisis. Other people in my family have been affected by the housing crisis. So affordable housing is an issue that I'm really into. I kind of fell into education advocacy, to be honest. I didn't mean to, and that sort of was this mesh of like my political activism and then it sort of became like an advocacy space for me because of an election that I was doing some work in and like volunteering in and stuff like that, which was the school board election. So over the last couple of years, my politics has really become like localized. Like I put a lot of energy in the local space, and sometimes that does help a little with that getting jaded part too, because local politics sometimes it does feel like you're able to touch things a little more directly, I guess. um I mean, honestly, if I just generically had to call myself a word, I guess I would say an advocate. But I think that politics and advocacy kind of can be two different things, right? Because I'm also going to like be really 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 loud in the on the politics of a situation. But to me, advocacy is more like, here's an issue I care about and I want to advocate with my representatives. I want to sit at a table with you. I want to shake your hand. I want to learn about this issue so that I like to say, we deserve a seat at their table, and I'm gonna come to your seat. I'm gonna come informed, because like if I sit down and talk to you, like you gonna hear what I want to say.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't make you do anything, but I mean, that to me that's a little separate than like I'm going to work for or against the candidate in an election. That
Yeah.
I get, and that's a Felicia made up definition, by the way. Just
Oh, you're good. You're like working for the cause, not like the
yeah, like
party.
it's like
Or
these two separate things to me in my head, and that happens like because they coincide sometimes, right? So in our council politics, I actually have worked for and against candidates and stuff in the council, but then I want to advocate with the council too. And so to me, like those are like two different little lanes of work, right? Like I had to sit down at a table with a candidate that I worked like volunteered and pushed really hard for her opponent. Like I really wanted her opponent to win. And you know, once I have to sit, she won though. The person I didn't
right.
want won. So now I got to sit at your table. Another dude who knew I didn't like him, I had to sit at the table with him. And so they are kind of separate to me. Like I kind of separate them in my head a little bit because I don't feel like I can effectively advocate if I'm constantly coming from, well, I didn't want you to, can I cuss on this thing? I
Yeah,
didn't,
yeah, girl, go
I
ahead.
didn't, I didn't want you to fucking win that election, but here you are. Now you're the person I'm having to sit at the table with, right? So
Right.
yeah, I'm kind of rambling here, so you might need to direct me because you know how it
Oh
is.
no, you're good. That makes sense. So like if even if it's not the person that you wanted to be in office or hold that position, you still are working with them because you're working towards a cause, not like
Yeah,
that person in particular. Because ultimately, right, I feel like it's about the people, that are
yeah.
being affected by everything. Yeah, no,
And
you
it can be hard. I mean, and that can be hard. Like the one dude, I really did not like that dude. I did not like that dude at all. And like we sat down at the table, we shook hands, and he's like, I kept wondering why you didn't like me. And I see this girl talking about me online and she doesn't like me or whatever. And I just thought she should just sit down with me and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, look, I'm willing to sit at a table with you and we can figure out if we have a place we can meet somewhere in the middle, but trust and believe I'm still gonna run my mouth in these streets. So I
right,
basically told him that too. Like don't get it twisted. I still stand on what I stand on. And that's kind of hard with politics because and I actually feel bad for folks who are elected, who they
right.
actually might go in standing on what they stand on, but politics works how it works, right?
Yep.
I ain't no politician though, so I'm still gonna
Right. You're
run
like,
my
right. To choose
nobody's
my
saying
side. Yeah.
I don't have to agree with nobody I don't want to agree with. I don't have to move if I don't want to. But I mean, I'm not out here changing the world either, right? I'm just like a person who cares about shit and try to do what I can in that space to do something, move something, even if it's just to inform people. Like sometimes I think just informing the folks around me is has a value too. So
Yeah, for sure. And I think like in numbers, if people just knew if we work together versus against each other, then we could make that move or actually being involved. Because I think a lot of us do feel like, oh, it doesn't really matter what I do. And then when it comes to like policy in like the healthcare system, I think if more nurses or people professionals put themselves like the people that are being affected. I mean, we can be one of the same. We can be affected by policy, but like we feel hopeless and we don't do anything. But ultimately, like getting in there, like you're doing. I mean, you're planting seeds, right? And then you are moving things forward. You're educating people who watch you, and like letting them know, hey, you can do something, even if it's just use your fucking voice. Um,
yeah.
and like you said, to make people aware. And then how did you, so for the affordable housing, did you get involved because of something that happened, or was it that like you started noticing things happening in your neighborhood, or what was it?
I mean, about 5 years ago, maybe around 2020, 2021, like it started to become really clear to me, even a little bit before that, when I was trying to get housing for a family member, it was really clear to me that like affordability was hard to find in the area that I live in. So I've taken note of it for a long time. By 2021, like this family member kept having raises in rent and they have a fixed income, right? And so it's like, okay, their income is not going up. And there's literally, we done looked at every affordable place in town when we first moved. So then it was like, I remember that was the first time like I emailed with the council. Like I emailed council and was like, this is not okay. Like you know, you're literally this pushes people out of town and they have nowhere to go. And where I live in the city, the town that I live in, even the county is unaffordable, right? So even if you push someone out of the city, there's still nowhere really even in the county too for them to go on in certain income levels. And so that was sort of like the impetus that started it. And then around 2023, it started to affect my son too. I mean, he had to move back in after he had already moved back out. And I know a lot of parents are dealing with that, like with our kids not being able to move out because it's so unaffordable and the economy just doesn't work for them. And so me and him started working together. Really, me and I really worked a lot together on that advocacy, which was kind of us just off to the side. Like I really do like to find folks who are already working in a space. Like there's no need to like reinvent a wheel if you're going to be doing something right. So I was asking around for like a year, like who is working specifically in our town, like who's on this shit. Like I want to know who to connect with. And there is a couple big orgs that do some work on affordable housing. They're related to like worship, like houses of worship. I mean, they're a great org.
Oh yeah, like religious organizations.
Yeah, like no hate to them at all. I've actually sat in solidarity with some of the stuff that they do, but it ended up kind of just being this thing where I couldn't find organizers on the ground who are already doing work. So I was kind of like, well, I guess I just need to like try this on my own, because I really was kind of used to advocating with an organization or taking action with an organization. So that was the affordable housing stuff was kind of my first experience with me taking the lead on an advocacy issue. And so that looked a lot like reading a shit ton of really boring government documents. And I say that all the time too. A lot of people think action looks really fancy and grand and shit. A lot of it's really boring behind the scenes. It's reading 100-page, contract for this affordable housing bill over here or whatever, so that you can sit at the table informed. And so then I made a decision after about 8-10 months of reading, becoming informed, trying to learn as much as I could, connect with as many people as I could. I decided that I wanted to meet with our council members. And so that was kind of an interesting little thing that happened. Our mayor, I heard through a grapevine, someone's like, maybe you should, I heard some things that the mayor said about your request. And I was like, oh, did you? I'd love to know. So then
How
we did
big is the town you live in? Sorry,
No, you're good. I mean, we're not small anymore. Our town is about 180, I think 120, 180,000 people. It's a high growth area here. So, I mean, I'm a nobody to the mayor as far as I'm concerned, right? I FOIA requested my meeting request because that's the kind of like I want to know what you said. Like, what you mean? Like, what I said? And it was basically like, this sounds political. It was also an election year, and this is like one of those things where I talk about where these things
they were scared.
That like, this sounds political. Like, my dude, you don't even have any competition. What are you worried about? Like, who cares? It's not political.
Wow. Yeah.
So, and then I spoke at a podium for the first time that year at the school board and at the council. And that was a different type of experience too, because I'm not really a podium speaker. I run my mouth a whole lot, but speaking at a podium is not like my comfort zone, Was having a huge panic attack, unrelated. The funny thing is unrelated to the shit I was up there to talk about. It wasn't being at the podium. It was just my crazy brain that was like, time to have a panic attack. So my entire speech, I'm having this huge panic attack. And I'm trying to make sure I say as pointedly as I can to the mayor how I'm feeling and what I'm thinking without completely calling him out. So I was like, basically can't wait to see you after the election, mayor, because we still want to meet, right? So
yeah.
And a lot of people think that type of action was like, because I wasn't asking for anything specific, right? And so in some ways it might sound kind of useless. Like, what's the point of meeting with everybody if you're not asking for a specific thing? To me, that felt like, no, I want you to know I'm engaged. Like, I want my representatives to know that I'm engaged on this issue. I'm paying attention to this issue. It was really also very helpful to my advocacy, staying informed and stuff like that, to make connections with staff and council people, so that when something comes up and I do have a question, there are now staff people that I've seen in every single meeting enough that I just can email them and be like, hey, what's up with this thing? When's the ADU thing going to happen? And they're receptive to me because they know I'm engaged, right? And so to me, that was the benefit of those meetings. It wasn't really like, give me a thing and then you get a thing right now or whatever. Like, so that advocacy really was, I hadn't really thought about it much until I'm saying it right now, but it really was one of the first times that I was like, oh, I'm going to lead this thing. And so, and when I went to council, I set up this thing. I set up an event online. I was like, hey, show up if you want to sit with us in solidarity. We got about 7 people. It wasn't that
Yeah,
many.
that's
There's a bunch of pickleballers there who wanted more pickleball courts, completely full of all these old people pickleballers. And so, and then the mayor after wrote this blog where he called me and my son lady and her son. A lady and her son came to complain about not having enough affordable housing. So that was fun. Actually pissed me off, quite
That's
frankly. And then,
wild though. You are somebody, girl. You're like, you're on his
well, I
radar.
got pissed. I was like, lady, that, first of all, old man, like, that is condescending. Like, this is I'm your constituent, sir.
Right, there we go. Yeah.
I'm your constituent. And my son is a grown ass man. He's not mine. You know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah,
disrespect
yeah.
him too.
He's
And
an
then
adult.
and then when we met, I was like, yeah, so like just to clear the air and all, because then I did shit talk him online about that, right? I didn't know if he saw it or didn't see it. I didn't really care. I was pissed. I was just shit talking him, And so when we sat down to meet, he was like, oh, I don't. What do you mean? What should I have said instead? And I was like, constituent, speaker. I mean, there's like a million other things you could have called me besides a lady. I just feel like that's an old misogynistic vestige, like speaking like that. Like, I ain't your little lady. I ain't nobody little lady. Like, no, 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 no. Like, I'm your constituent, and I came here. Because I'm serious about this. So I don't know. Politics is interesting. It is kind of like a soap opera sometimes. I will tell you that too, Phil. Like, I'm serious. People are like, in the behind the scenes, politics is really gossipy and rumor milly and like all kinds of shit. But I don't repeat rumors in the public.
But you've managed to meet a lot of people or get people more like involved in the things that you're trying to advocate for. How's that going? Do you feel like
Best. I did organize for an organization in 2022 too. So I met a lot of people through that. I met a lot of people through some work I did on like volunteering for some campaign stuff. And so I really I like to call like the group of folks that I work with, like we have like this little grassroots thing. And so it's like if some shit goes down, then everyone's kind of texting each other about it. Like, what can we do here? Do we need to show up at a meeting here? Like, so there kind of is this community that I didn't build myself. I don't take credit for this. A lot of people were already advocates. Some people were sort of newer advocates, but everyone at this point is doing work. And so I don't credit myself with their work, and we just work together is how I think about it. You know what I mean? Like, I may have, I mean, there's a possibility that some of the folks around me may know a little bit more about the affordable housing stuff because I'm a big yapper in our space on that specific issue, but it's really just informative. Like, and some folks chose to show up just to sit in solidarity with us, and I appreciate that because being a seat in a room, like filling a seat in a room is an action in my mind, right? It shows your representatives that there is more than just, I always say, my saying that I say to people is I'm not an island and I don't want to be. Because a lot of times people see me just talking. They see me talking because I'm loud. And it's like, yeah, but it's not just me here. And like a lot of the work that, a lot of the incredible people that I work with, like they have taught me a shit ton too, especially in the education advocacy. I have some incredible advocates around me that have been working in education advocacy for years, and they taught me a lot. And I'm not a fucking island, and I don't want to be. I don't want to be an island. And sometimes I am kind of a bitch. And so like when I make that point, I want to make it clearly like I am not an island. I don't want my representatives to think that I'm just some crazy loony talking into an ether, right? Like there are people that talk to me. Networking is another huge part of politics, right? It's staying connected with folks. Like when we were doing me and a couple of my friends, we wanted to find an organization that was working with the undocumented community, right? And none of us were connected to any of the organizations. But I was like, look, in the white lady space, like really, I want to find money. I want to find a place where these women can donate their money. Like that's what I was trying to do. Like that was my goal, like to find an org that was directly benefiting the undocumented community financially, right? Because I was talking to two of the folks I was working with there from the immigrant community. One of my friends what came over undocumented, and so I really let them lead me there as far as like helping me understand the issue. And I considered my role really like as white, because I do consider myself white. Uh, I really consider my role to like help the white ladies around me know where they could donate, right? Like that's what I was trying to do. And when we ordered some red cards, which just sort of tells people their rights, lets them know like what their rights are and stuff like that. And I was cutting them up, and there was like 400 of them, and I'm like trying to cut these 400 things, and I was like, no, this just who got a paper cutter? I need to know who got
right.
And it's like this smallest little thing where I'm like, no, who do I know? Like my head is like, who do I know with a paper cutter? I know someone. And
who's the crafty person, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so I find the paper cutter, and like I think a lot about those little things when it comes to community, when it comes to organizing. It seems like so silly, like it's a fucking paper cutter, right? But not only did the person like let me borrow their paper cutter, they didn't have to fucking do that.
Right.
But they were also like glad for the reason that I needed the paper cutter, right? And they were supportive of the reason that I needed it, but also just knowing that I have that I try my best to stay connected with my neighbors and with people in my community. Like that is such an important part. To me, it's one of the biggest parts is making sure, because at the end of the day, if shit goes to shit all the way, right? Like that's what is that? People that we save us. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, right? So, I mean, that's a super important part to me, and I have incredible community around me. Like, awesome. I don't even know how to give thanks for that. Not even just in the political or just in a general sense. I have incredible women around me. So many incredible women around me. That makes my heart happy all the fucking time. Like I have there's a lot of badass women around me.
I love that. Is there so for somebody who's trying to create like that community or reach out, try to network, like what are the spaces that you find yourself networking in? Is it more getting involved in the community, like you Facebook groups, so you look things up online, or how is it? Because like I'm not to say that sometimes people may struggle, maybe they just don't know where to look.
Yeah, no, well, for me, I feel like there's different spaces, and at the end of the day, they've all kind of overlapped, right? I used one of the things I did as an organizer for an organization I work with. We talk about relational organizing, which really is networking with everybody in your spaces, right? And sort of being okay talking about politics.
Right.
But finding those spaces would be like an org. Like if people aren't connected with people already, I generally try to tell them to find an org that cares about the thing they care about. The other thing I feel like right now, because everything is like at us, like I mean there's like shit coming at us all the time, is to narrow focus. Like what do you really care about? Like what is everything is important. That's the hard thing. Everything is important, but we can't fix everything, and we don't have enough energy or time in the day to work on everything. So like sort of finding a issue to prioritize your attention on, and find an org that is doing that work. And I connected with a lot of people that way. I've also connected with folks through social media, through different groups that are, either by issue or, by what side of the political aisle you might be on, that are localized groups. I do some other work online that sometimes I connect with people like through DM even. And so I've actually connected with quite a few advocates that plays over into real life in the online space, where it's like we're working together in a DM. There are some women I worked together in a DM for a year, just us working together in this sort of like virtual space, and didn't meet in person for a year, but we were still doing work together. And I know that can be hard for some people too. I know some people aren't super social, and so some people don't want to be in the huge group of people that they don't know. And then I think sometimes people feel like, oh, that means they can't really do things or work. And I think some of my work has really been a testament to the fact that if you're engaged and you're finding the right spaces online, there really can be spaces that you can actually be actively working with folks online. And that can be information sharing, that can be like calls to actions, like this is going on, that is going on. And then my neighbors. I mean, a lot of fellow advocates actually are my literal neighbors. They're people that my kid went, my kid parents of my kids' friends. It's my literal neighbors that live around me. It's folks. We have this big online community here in the town that I live in that on Facebook that a lot of people are in. And so some of the folks, I've met through there or sort of have acquaintance through that type of thing. And there's levels to it. Everyone ain't your best friend,
Right,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? There's also that. There's like levels to it. Like, and there's the good thing about that too is that you don't always have to. My goal is not always to connect only with people who are on the shit I'm on, right? It's to connect with anyone who's engaged, because what I've found over time is that the more people that you sort of can make a connection with, like I said, you don't got to be BFFs, but the more people you sort of make connection with, the more it's like if there is an issue that's not your lane, right? Like if I know that's her lane, so like let me go ask her about this and like what's happening with this, or that type of thing. So as a talker, it's easy for me to do. I talk a lot, so it's easy for me to just yap my face to people, and I'm comfortable with that. But I do know that some people aren't necessarily as comfortable with that, and I work with people who are like that too, though, and a lot of our work include. A lot of our work will include things that are just their skill set. Like some of the work that I do in the background requires skill sets I don't have. And, you know, hey, do that mathy thing. Hey, Matt, like, like,
Right, yeah, yeah. Like everybody has their, like you said, their little skill. If it's like making flyers or yeah, like your graphic designers or that sort of thing. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. And I think, I don't know, I'm just such a people person. And so it's hard for me to give advice on that, I think. And sometimes I think it is hard for me to give advice on that because I don't really have any qualms about talking to anyone about anything. But I do know
Awesome.
people in the space. I do know people in the space who are quieter than me, or prefer to just do their shit in the background. And I think it's important for everyone to know that too. Every time you see some wild shit going down, that's like, what the fuck is happening? I think it's important for everyone to sort of remember that there are folks always fighting back. Like every wild thing you see, I promise you, in the most niche of issues, there's somebody that's pissed about that and fighting it, right? So like politics, I think, turns people off and it makes them jaded. But I've met some really amazing people in politics because of that reason. Because everywhere some bad shit is going down, there's people trying to do the right thing and push for the right thing. And that really like introduces you to a world of actual incredible people in politics. And so, yeah, I like to remind people of that too, because people think politics is bullshit.
Yeah, no, I mean it's kind of hard to think like I for sure can say that I want to believe in our judicial system and that my vote counts. Like I want to believe that. Like ultimately, like I want to have faith in our system, but yes, you do get jaded and you're just like, what the fuck does it even matter? You have people like burning freaking ballot boxes and like what are we counting? Like just all the
Look,
stories that we hear.
I will advocate all day long on some shit and still be that person that's like, fuck these parties. They're both like everyone's fucking everyone over. This is some political bullshit. I don't like the political games that get played with people's lives. It pisses me off
Hmm.
tremendously. Like, and then I think for me, and I think I said it to you before too, in some iteration or another, like that it does piss me off. And I do feel like politics is life. Like politics touches everything we do, right? And for I've always cared about politics. I've always been active in politics. I've always paid attention. And to me, not taking action almost makes me madder. It's almost like a way to direct that negative energy when you can say, I'm not going to change the fucking world and I ain't trying to because that's unrealistic. But, maybe, just maybe I can, help push for something that might happen. I mean,
No, I think if more people thought that we could make a difference, or like even if it wasn't, like you said, you may not change the world, but you're making people aware. Like if more of us felt that, then we could actually push forward on an issue. Like it does take a group. Like you said, you have to have fucking community, or then where are we? There's magic in numbers, or whatever word you want to use. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I have lots of opinions about lots of things, and advocacy, Felicia, definitely will talk in a different way than fuck the man, Felicia, right? Like trust that there's two sides of it, right? Like I completely get the way people are jaded. I get pissed all the time about the politics of politics. I mean, like things are gross to me. A lot of them is like, it's not about the people. It's about money. It's about who's paying the most money, and you know
like whose hand is up whose ass, like I
exactly.
want to feel like, okay, who,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
That's
know.
right.
I am never gonna disagree with a person who feels that way about it, because I agree. Like, I mean, you've heard me. Like, I bitch about that shit too. I just I
You
can't
want to do
look
something
away.
about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
can't look away. And so it's like it
You're like,
pisses
fuck
me
this.
off. Yeah, fuck this. I can't fucking change it, but god damn it, I'm gonna try to do something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Um,
powerful. That's
I,
powerful, man.
I mean, it don't feel like it, but it keeps my head straighter, I guess. It keeps my head straighter to be able to focus, like, okay, can't fucking change that crazy shit, but maybe, maybe just maybe I can get my people to vote, or I mean, because getting out the vote is
Yeah,
such an important part of it too. Is That's something that I do think I probably have moved people on, is reminding them to vote, getting them to the polls, um, informing them about candidates and stuff like that. Like that's a
yeah,
space
no,
I
for
would say.
sure.
I only know that because people fucking tell me. Like they're like, "Oh shit, I fucking forgot," and you just reminded me.
Yeah, no, like it's good to inform, I think, everybody on the candidates, because half the time, like if local politics, I can't lie. It's like I don't know half the people on the ballot. My thing was that I was concentrating on was cannabis. But I feel you, like when you hear people complain and complain, and you're like, well, why don't you get up and fucking do something about it? Like, not to say that I did huge amounts of work, but like even just um making, like you said, making people aware, or going out and petitioning, or
Mhm.
being loud and sharing, because you're not the only person that feels that way. And
Yeah,
but it sounds like you want to do more of a bipartisan thing, when you sit down and talk to a guy that you didn't want to win, but ultimately you said he had no opponent, so you're trying to get there to work together to hopefully like get get them doing whatever it is that they need to be doing, like fixing this fucking affordable housing thing. I wanted to ask you, how did you get into education, and what is your stance on education? Is it more like the way the education system is, or how like fucked up it is? I don't know exactly how it is in North Carolina, but depending on where your kid's school district is, like they get more funds, and then there's last election, I think they were trying to argue about the state giving private schools money,
Mhm.
and how those funds should be allocated. So yeah,
Yeah.
let me know
Here in
about
North
that.
Carolina, our state legislature, so the majority of funding for your schools comes from the state. Some of it comes from federal funding, like the Department of Education, all the stuff that's happening with that right now. And some of it comes from the county, so like your property taxes and stuff like that. And the way focused on education politics was really because there was a lot of crazy people showing up to school boards. Like there's a piece of me that really feels like our school boards are a ground zero, like at least a little bit of a ground zero of some of the insanity of what's happening. And I was sort of paying attention back during COVID. And then I paid real close attention and was volunteering in a school board race um, in 2022. And so I was really paying close attention that way. And so I really got connected with a bunch of education. It really was an accident. I did not I fell into education, the issues of education politics. Like you, I didn't used to pay attention to who my school board member was or who my council person was. I voted in all of those elections, and I'm sure that as I was voting, I was like, oh, I think this, I would like research a little and I'd be like, I think this is the right person. But I was really focused on bigger government bodies than those. And so I really was, I until 2022, I actually didn't know who my school board member was, right? There was just a really crazy person running for school board. And so I was like, yeah, like that can't happen. Like she's crazy. And then I've just been educated by a lot of advocates about the issues around education, and I'm still learning. I've learned a lot over the last couple of years, but I'm still learning. Like education politics is there's a lot to learn. Like I do know vouchers are bullshit. Okay, it's basically like the state is giving away taxpayer funds to private schools, and in our state they just basically made it so that there's no income limits. That you can still get a voucher if you're a millionaire. So yeah, and there every state's voucher shit is different, and I am by no means an expert on it. But if your state does private school vouchers, I would definitely suggest looking into it because it is a big education issue that I know a lot of advocates advocate about because it is a diversion of public funds to private entities when a lot of our states education systems ain't doing so tight,
Right.
and they're diverting hundreds of millions of dollars to private schools. So I think in a wider way, there is a push to just completely dismantle our public education system, and to privatize things because everything's about the money around
Yeah.
here. So
Yeah, no, for sure. Everything is about money. Yeah, that, I mean, just dissolving the Department of Education. I mean, that's it. It sounds like a wild idea. It just maybe if we could I don't know, like remake
mm-hmm.
the education system into something that's a little more where we're going to create innovators and creative students versus, like just employees that are going to work 9 to 5. Because that's honestly, what do we, I mean, our my kid's 16 and I don't want to say that he's non-functional, but like I feel like they've been learning the same fucking thing year after year after year, especially after COVID. And it's like, when are you going to move on to the next thing? Or why aren't we teaching, like educators that like your fucking kid at 4 years old can probably learn, but not like crazy ass math, but we don't. We teach them like the very basic type stuff because I mean, we're not using science there to be like, hey, your kid has a sponge brain and let's teach them some shit so then we can have better people in our world, right? That's
Yeah, I mean,
my issue there. It's like, what the fuck are we doing?
well, my oldest kid hated school. Absolutely hated school. He hated school. And one of the biggest lessons I had to learn about school in my kid was I can't make you I can't make you want something you don't want,
Mm-hmm.
And he's so intelligent. And so I really was it was like a me thing where I was like, I want this for you. I want you to go to college. I want this for you. I really that was one of those parenting moments that was kind of like a punch in the face for me was the realizations that like that's not what he wants. Like he doesn't want to go to college. He doesn't want that. And um he's gonna be a grown ass man and I can't make him do nothing. And
Yeah.
so that kid definitely stressed me out about school. I have to say, I know I'm getting a little sidetracked, but that kid stressed me out about school because he, from the time he was in second grade, I was being told he could be. Our grades here are threes and four, like 1 through 4 in elementary school instead of ABC
Okay.
or whatever. It's like he's making threes, but he could be making fours. So he always did the bare minimum. He was always that kid that was like, I'm gonna do what the bare minimum I have to do so I can be done. And
Right. Yeah.
we
There's
even
nothing
got to
wrong
a
with that.
point. There was a point where I was like, dude, do you want to just drop out and get your GED and just like go to community college or something like that? He didn't want to do that either. So I'm like, you know what? I did what my daddy did to me. My daddy said, you better pass. You better pass.
Yeah, don't make my life difficult. Like I share 50-50 custody and like I don't believe in our school system. I'm like, I don't really care about your grades ultimately. Like I don't think you're learning. It's just so on the other hand, I'm all like learn to play the game though. Like I need you to pass so then you're like your dad's not on my back about your grades. Because
Yeah.
that's a balancing act there too. But I think that's awesome that you got involved in, like trying to um, help out the school system. But what was the issue ultimately for the school system? Was it like getting, was it the vouchers, or was it you're still learning? I think you kind of said that.
Honestly, to be so fucking real, it was anti them, because they were showing up on crazy fascist bullshit to school board, like just talking about, it used to be CRT, now it's the DEI bullshit. I mean, they basically just keep interchanging the word. It was the bigots. It was the bigots. It was being anti the bigots that were showing up at the school board that really first got me like tuned in to the school board and what was happening at the school board. It
Like
was
banning books, or
like what?
like banning books, or was it like
Yeah, like the book banning bullshit. It all started with like the anti-mask bullshit. And then very quickly spiraled into the book banning shit and the bigot shit and the anti-LGBTQ plus shit. And so that's really what turned my attention that direction, because my attention was already sort of on that bigotry and all this other bullshit that's happening in politics. And then, as my attention was turned, then I was like, oh shit, like I ain't really ever paid attention to this damn board, and like there's actually a lot of important shit that be happening over here, maybe I should look. And so it really was first just being upset by the bigotry that was like coming towards the school system and towards the students and the teachers and the staff. I mean, it's, you're not just attacking a board when you come to a board meeting, railing on trans kids. You're attacking trans kids. You're attacking, trans families that have trans parents, or I mean, we've had people show up at our school board that say racist stuff. Uh, yeah, I mean, they be a little wild over there, just like a little bit, like but then, I started to learn, like, because now I watch the school board meetings. Part of the work that I do watch like every school board meeting, and so I've really just started to learn a lot about how the board works. And I think a lot of reason I didn't pay attention to the school board before was because I didn't feel a need to. My kids were doing fine at school, and it just felt like, well, they must be doing what they're supposed to be doing. Nothing's It was kind of that thing that I think a lot of us do with a lot of issues, is like, it's not touching me, it's not touching my kid.
right,
Like, I don't even know who's on that damn board, but they must be doing what they're supposed to do. In fact, I've learned that 10 years ago they actually weren't doing what the fuck they were supposed to do, and I just wasn't looking, and so but it's impossible to look at everything too. So there's that, right? Like, there's no way I could pay attention to every single thing. So now I have time. The other thing is my kids, I have one grown kid and my other kid's, a teenager. And so it's kind of, now I have a lot more time to really focus energy and advocacy. So that helps. So that's another reason too why I don't make a lot of judgments when people aren't necessarily like advocating all over the place. Like, shit
right.
takes time.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
forget like, money or whatever. If like, for me, because I do have like financial privilege at this point in my life, I don't have to make money for labor necessarily. And that's a privilege that a lot of people don't have, and I recognize that. And so people ain't got time to fucking be worried about, everything that's happening in the world when they just trying to get through the damn day
Yes,
and,
preach, girl.
feed their
Hmm.
fucking kids and shit, right? So I mean, I'm real about that. I don't make judgments on that at all, because I mean, there was a time in my life where I wouldn't have had time to pay attention to this shit either, right? So, um, and that, I mean, it was even back in the day when I was, my kids were little. Even when you just got little kids, you gotta take care. Like, them things take up all your time. You know what I'm saying?
For
and your
real.
brain, and your brain. It's like they
Yes,
eat it or something.
they do. They
So,
take it in euro. For
so
real.
yeah, it definitely helps to have time now. I just feel like too, you might feel this way because we're near the same age. I just feel like I'm at a point in my life too where it's just sort of like there's sort of like this, I don't know what it is yet, but there's sort of a shift happening. It's
Hmm.
like, what am I doing? My kid, I now have a grown kid. This kid is almost grown. Like, what am I doing with myself? So I'm kind of in that space too, trying to sort that.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like a lot of us get to that point where we're not maybe necessarily involved too much in our kids' lives, or maybe it's the thing that gets us involved. If it's like your kid. I know with Nebraskans for medical marijuana, a lot of the moms, it's their kids, like they're fighting the fight for their children so their children can have a better future. So yeah, like I think it's awesome when, like, say your kids aren't necessarily in, the thick of the school system, but they're trying to make a change for everybody. You're not just looking out for me, you're looking out for your fucking community. And I think definitely that has resonated with me a lot lately with all the shit that's going down, is finding your community and knowing that you can rely on them so you can come together and, like, get that cause that you're fighting for to push through. Ultimately, though, I will say that I believe that we can have all the laws in the world, all right, and we're going to break them all, okay? Like, I think, I mean, I ultimately break the law like every motherfucking day, and I'm okay with that. Like, because for me, it's my livelihood. If for you that's your passion, right? Like, whatever it is
Yep.
your passion, I don't agree with that. I mean, if not, then we'd still have like crazy wild shit going on. Like, I mean, I fear at some point that I might have Mexicans hiding in my house because I'm feel like that's what I have to do. Because we just can't keep doing the thing that we're doing. We're not like caring about people or caring about like a cause. We're not seeing people as people.
Do
It's
y'all have any mutual aid orgs where you're at? I know a lot of
mutual.
people like mutual aid organizations.
Yeah, the only organization I can honestly say that I'm involved in is with Nebraskans for Medical Marijuana. As of lately, though, I've been trying to see if we're going to do anything like organized for like the stuff that's going on with immigration. I haven't seen anything super wild, but like I said, I don't really pay attention. I like to live in my little bubble of oblivion. But like like I work with people who are not, who are scared, who are scared about, like
Mhm.
going to the local post office or wherever you get your um what is that called? Your passport.
Oh
Like
yeah.
they're scared. Kids are scared at fucking school. Like they're like, I'm
Yep.
afraid that I'm gonna come home and like my mom or dad is not gonna be there. These are things I hear from parents. They're like, this is what my kid is saying. Um, and like I asked my kid about like if there's anything, are people afraid or what's going on? And he's like, no, everything seems to be kind of normal as it was before. But like my kid goes to a school in the nice part of town. Omaha is very segregated still. Like there's a black part of
Mhm.
town, there's a brown part of town, and there's like the richy part of town where it's mostly white. But like yeah, no, there's just a lot of wild shit going on right now. I hope we fucking wake the fuck up and start thinking about people as individuals or lives, children, versus like, hey, this is just some person invading my space. I mean, we got to get them the fuck out of here. Like, yeah,
Yeah. Like they're human beings. Yeah.
yeah.
How's the issue? How's the medical are y'all advocating for legalization you're in Nebraska? So,
We just had legalized. Oh, sorry.
uh,
Go ahead.
no, you're good, girl. That's just me being me. I was talking ahead.
Oh, me too. Legalized this past local election in November of 2024, I want to say. And like I said, I'm like so oblivious to. I'm like, I just show up. I show up. What do you need me to do? You need me to collect signatures? I'll say whatever it is you need to say. Uh, but in doing so and getting connected with Nebraskans for medical marijuana, kind of like off topic of the questions you just asked me, is though like being out there and getting sponsors or getting like um, when we're out like at fairs and stuff and getting to meet the people who are also going to be there like in the thick of it wanting to support your cause. Like we have local hemp farms around here, and then there's all these like loopholes to where in the illegal states where you can have cannabis, right? Like THCA is ultimately weed, right? And then
Hmm.
you can buy it at a dispensary because they're selling you like an inert plant. Here you go. You can take this plant, whatever you decide you want to do with it after you leave here. Either you light it up and you turn it into THC, or you blend it up in a smoothie and you leave it as THCA. Like either way, whatever you decide to do is your business, and it's healthy for you either way. Personally, that's what I think. Just because I know what our endocannabinoid system does. So, like, back to your question though. Right now, honestly, I believe that we're still fighting something to where because they keep trying to take shit back to court. There's two
Hmm.
bills. I think one that says where we can have up to like 5 ounces a day, and then there's another bill. I think it's more. stringent at that, and then they want to only have like one um, company or corporation kind of in control of all of the medical
Mhm.
marijuana, and like kind of like that's what Iowa is doing, and I definitely don't think that's okay. I pretty much feel like it should be de decriminalized. It should be descheduled. But we got to play the game, right? Um, but it's been a really, I guess it's been over 10 years that these moms have been trying to like push this cause to come through, and it's just been one thing after the other. But hopefully here soon, like I said, I was like editing some of these moms that I interviewed. Like, people can hear their stories, like their struggle, and it's fucking sad. And we're like giving these kids fucking death sentences. I mean, people death sentences. I mean, I ultimately feel like if I would have continued on the path that I was on, taking fucking 12 pills for my lupus, I'd be dead. Like my kidneys would be done.
Yeah.
But I'm just grateful that I knew better, and we want to trust the fucking healthcare system. I just don't. Like,
Yeah.
I
I mean, I've known parents whose kids have like epilepsy and stuff, and we're nowhere near legalization here in North Carolina. They've tried to introduce a bill a couple of times for like very limited medical legalization, and it doesn't move any time. And I'm sure that there's a caveat of folks out there really advocating and trying to push for those things to happen, but our legislature is trash a lot. How about, is y'all's legislature like receptive to the issue, or?
From what I hear, a lot of no, not really. Like maybe there's maybe one or two people that have been really for it, and then they maybe get scared or of like pushing forward. They don't want So it's been a an initiative led by like the citizens, moms and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was nobody who got involved and was like, "Hey, we're gonna put this bill forward." It was just people, like constituents, I guess.
Yeah.
That's the correct word, because I don't know. I don't even act like I know like the correct words. I just show up and I want to do the thing because I know this is right. So even if there's people out there, I say like fucking jump on the bandwagon and figure out what it is that you're trying to change. Because I I'd like to learn more on how everything works. I want to be more of an advocate on like the medical side, even with like my own personal story, just sharing with whoever will listen that this is something we should fight for. But yeah, it definitely, talking to these moms, they're just like, I just, I this time, this is it, and then it doesn't happen, and like we're like,
Yeah.
okay, fine, but they keep going, because
Yeah.
they have no other choice. But
No.
thank you so much for like sharing everything it is that you do. Like I love that fucking passion that you have, and when I see you on like Instagram and you're like saying all the things, girl, I mean, I think people should definitely be afraid because you're gonna, you know, boots on the
Run my
ground.
mouth. I don't hurt nobody, but I'm never gonna fucking shut up. That's what I do know. Like
But
whatever happens as a result, I'm never gonna shut up. So
I'm excited to see what's gonna happen in the future, and then and then seeing what happens in the future for us as a whole fucking uh country.
yeah.
But
It
I feel like,
it's
yeah, maybe we can survive a whole another 4 years, and
well, hopefully they'll legalize some marijuana for everybody, and at least we can fucking relax while the fucking shit is burning.
yeah, we can all sing kumbaya, right? Yeah, it's like it really does bring everybody together. Like yeah, cannabis does that. And you see all kinds of people who smoke weed, and we believe all kinds of different things. But the one thing that we can't do is get our smoke on.
Yeah, relax.
Hells yeah,
I should probably smoke some fucking weed.
you should try it. I tell everybody try it, you'll like it. I mean,
Well,
unless you're gonna be anxious.
that's that problem. The problem is like I'm like I do wish it was fucking legal because I just feel like it's like hit or miss when when you're using it, it's not legal and I don't really have control over it's not regulated and I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna feel
Right?
one way or the other. It might be fun
Exactly.
or it might be terrible. So I just don't fuck with it.
Just start low and slow if you decide to eat it, okay? Don't be like some of my friends are like, oh, I just took the whole gummy. And I'm like, did you see how many milligrams were in there before you took that?
Uh,
No. Like, okay. and then they have a horrible experience.
Yeah, no, I learned my lesson on that the very first time I smoked as a teenager. I smoked way too much, and then I was like, "This is not fun. I don't like this." No, you'll have to maybe I'll finally make my podcast too, and we'll reverse this, and I'll bring you on so
Yeah.
you can talk about your experience with lupus and stuff. Because I actually would love to hear that story. Like I see you talk about it a little bit, but I don't think I've fully heard that story either, and I want to. So
Yeah.
you'll have to teach me what you've been learning here doing the podcast thing and how it works.
It's definitely been a learning curve. I'm not gonna lie. I was struggling for the longest time with trying to figure out how to do the tech part. And then everybody's all like, "What are you struggling with?" And I'm like, "Dude, I like if I get on my phone and I do something, it'll be a voice recording." Or like with the Nebraskans for Medical Marijuana, it was a voice recording. One of them didn't want to show her face, and then the other campaign manager, we just met in person, so it's easier to record it, our voices and stuff. Um, so just kind of figuring that out. But ChatGPT is my best friend. I'll be like, "How do you do this? How do I organize my life?"
Oh shit! If I, I wish Chat GPT could organize my life for me. Like, oh Lord, no.
Yeah, I mean, but I think in the end, it's just something you get accustomed to, and then after consistency, you're like, "Oh, okay, I'm starting to figure it out." It just takes time. But no, definitely do it. It's fun. I think you would be great. I'm gonna well, I'm gonna do a little ending right quick, and then we can talk if you want. I'm gonna thank you so much for being here. I fucking loved hearing all of your passion and all of the things that you're doing, and I hope people fucking get motivated and they go out and do the damn thing. And like, and where can people find you? Because I definitely want you to send that to me so if people are interested in contacting you about, hey, how do I do this? And you're in North Carolina, and what if you want to share what city you're in? You can. If not, that's cool. We can just leave it.
I mean, if you're in North Carolina, I use a little bit of social media with my face at Felicia underscore won't underscore shut up on Instagram and TikTok. So I'm always down to connect in a DM if if folks want to talk about politics, organizing, all the things. Like I'm definitely down for conversation always.
Hell yeah, I love that. All right, so y'all look for my cousin Felicia. Bye, Felicia. Hold on,
Bye.
here.